Bedtime stories read to you by Gramsies. Tonight's story is read for Elisa, my oldest granddaughter and heart of my hearts. This is for you. The World's Most Haunted Places by Jeff Ballinger, from the secret files of ghostvillage.com. True ghost stories. The first story is Ballygally Castle Hotel. On a bright sunny day, Ballygally Castle is a living postcard. A charming, almost teal-colored Scottish baronial castle overlooking the sea in Northern Ireland. On a dark, stormy evening, Ballygally is right out of a 1950s horror movie. There's a dark coastal road that takes you to the castle on the hill. You can imagine the lightning flashes making Ballygally's Scottish granite flash a pale gray before going back to almost black in the night. In a corner turret of the castle, a small window overlooks the north channel of the Irish Sea from a small, drafty room the Ballycastle staff have dubbed the Ghost Room. No one stays in the Ghost Room overnight anymore. Well, no one living anyway. Today, Ballygally Castle is attached to a popular 3-star hotel. From the outside, visitors can clearly see where the castle ends, and the hotel was added on to in the 50s. Located about 20 miles north of Belfast, Ballygally was originally built by James Shaw, a Greenock, Scottish native who came to Northern Ireland in 1613. Shaw built the castle in 1625 in a French chateau style, with 5-foot thick walls, a hall for convenient drinking water, plus the water meant the castle's occupants could hold out a long time if there was a siege. Shortly after the completion of the castle construction, James Shaw took a wife named Lady Isabel Shaw. The current legend says that during the first few years of their marriage, Lady Shaw had a daughter. James Shaw became angry that his wife didn't produce a male heir, and so he locked her in this tiny turret of the castle facing the sea. It's unclear whether Lady Shaw leapt to her death from the small window while desperately trying to get to her daughter, or whether James Shaw had some henchmen throw her down the steep staircase, killing her. The first time I heard this bit of folklore, it didn't sit right with me. If James Shaw was so upset about not getting a male heir, wouldn't the couple just try for another child? After some digging, I heard another version of the legend that seemed to make more sense. Apparently, Lady Shaw may have been having an affair with a seaman. One could also speculate that her daughter may have been the love child of this mysterious man. When James Shaw found out, he went into a rage, locking his wife in the turret. His rage built until it either drove Lady Shaw out the window or some thugs threw her to her death. Lady Shaw has been experienced in the old part of the castle, and especially in the ghost room, many times over the centuries, but Lady Shaw is certainly not the only ghost haunting Ballygally. Olga Henry is the current manager of Ballygally Castle Hotel. Henry has worked at Ballygally since January of 2003, and though she's originally from Northern Ireland, she didn't hear about the ghost stories until she arrived at the castle for work. She was quickly indoctrinated about the ghosts at Ballygally. Henry said, "I'm sort of very skeptical about the whole supernatural thing and ghosts. But the more I stay and work here, the more I think there's definitely something in this hotel." In the old part of the hotel, the castle section, there are 4 guest rooms for rent situated just below the ghost room. Some people specifically request the rooms in the castle section, and some get more of an experience than they bargained for. Henry told me about one of the guests who was staying at the old section of the castle while in town for business. She explained, he was staying in one of the rooms in the tower, and he has little kids at home. In the middle of the night, he thought he was in his own house again. He was lying face down in the bed, and he thought one of his children had put their hand on his back. And then he woke up and sort of realized where he was, and he said that he could hear a child running around the room and laughing. He then appeared at our reception area in just his boxer shorts, and he said, "Just get me out of that old part of the castle." The castle section is also home to 2 private dining rooms, one called the Dungeon Room, and the other, the 1625 Room. The Dungeon Room features an old-world stone floor, a grand fireplace, and rough-cast walls. It was in the Dungeon Room that Henry had quite a peculiar experience in December of 2003. Henry explained how a group of directors were coming to stay at the hotel and were going to dine the evening of their arrival in the Dungeon Room. She said, "We'd set out the room from the day before. I made sure the glasses were sparkling and the candelabras right, and it all looks the part. After setting up, we had locked the room. The next day, these guys were checking in that morning, and I thought I'd go and open the dungeon in case they wanted to have a look as see where they were going to be dining. I went in and opened the dungeon, and the table was an absolute mess. Nothing else in the room had been disturbed, but all the glasses on the table were laid in a circle around the table. The linen napkins had all been unfolded and sort of strewn across the table. We had a round mirror in the center of the table with a candelabra on it, and everything was covered, including the glasses, in a scum or a dust. It wasn't the dust that you just wipe off. It was like scum, but nowhere else in the room. It wasn't on the floor. It wasn't on any other surface in the room, just over the table. It definitely sent the hairs on the back of my neck up, because I'm thinking I had the key to this room. Is there another key somewhere? And even so, I just can't explain how that happened. None of it made any sense at all. It was very unnerving. Though the older castle section of the hotel is the most active, ghosts have also been experienced throughout the entire hotel. Henry told me about mediums who have come to Ballygally and said they may have more ghosts and guests on some evenings. Some common reports include the sounds of children laughing and running around playing, the rustle of a silk dress when no one is around to make such a sound, showers that turn themselves on and flood the rooms below, and there are many reports of ghostly knocks on guest room doors throughout the hotel. Whether that prank is ghostly or very much earthly, guests report opening their doors to find no one in the hallway outside. Lady Isabel Shaw's ghost does seem to be more confined to the castle section, especially in the ghost room. The week before Halloween 1998, Kim Lenigan, a reporter for the BBC radio program Good Morning Ulster, was recording a series of fun Halloween segments for the morning radio show and decided to spend the night in Ballygally Castle Ghost Room as one of her segments. I spoke to Lenigan from her office at the BBC in Belfast about that night at Ballygally, when she got a much bigger ghost story than she planned on. Lenigan said, "We thought it would be a laugh. We thought, let's go do the unusual and spend the night in the spooky house story." Lenigan drove to Ballygally on a dark, stormy, and cold October evening. She had arranged to meet a psychic medium there who would only go by the name of Sally. Sally didn't want publicity out of the news story. She was simply there to try to make contact. Like other mediums, Sally noted to the hotel management that there were several spirits haunting the hotel. Lenigan and Sally made their way up to the cold and drafty ghost room, and Sally began to go through a meditation ritual to try to make contact with one of the spirits of Ballygally Castle. The ghost room is a tiny space with a wrought iron cot bed, a basic dressing table with a small mirror on it, a chair, a few old pictures on the wall, and a small window that juts out to offer a view of the sea. Lenigan said Sally seemed to be making contact, and that's when the environment started to change. She said she was not in a trance, but she was certainly very focused on what she was doing. And I'm standing there with a tape recorder hoping for the best. The next thing that happened is it started to get a lot warmer. I mean, significantly warmer. The temperature in the room must have gone up by 10 degrees. Then Sally, started talking to someone, literally coinciding with the temperature going up, and a smell came. It didn't waft in. I mean, the smell came straight on almost instantly. It smelled like vanilla, but it wasn't exactly vanilla. While it was a vanilla-like smell, it was an old, slightly musty smell. Musty vanilla. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's what it was. At that point, the hairs on the back of Lenigan's neck were up. The medium was having a conversation with someone in the room who was obviously distressed. Lenigan likened the experience to listening to one side of a phone conversation. Sally was trying to calm down what she later called a very upset female spirit. The medium would later explain that the spirit was that of a young woman who was scared and looking for her young daughter. The medium told Lenigan that they were keeping her there against her will, and she said there was an older woman who wouldn't let her out of the room. During the conversation, this woman continually ran to the window looking for a man named Robert, who was out at sea. The spirit didn't understand why Robert didn't come back to get her. The experience lasted 7 or 8 minutes before Sally's face went blank and she announced, "I've lost her." Lenigan said, "I knew instantly because, as she said that, the smell disappeared. A normal smell cannot just come and go like that. It literally disappeared. There was no trace of it. Also, as it went, the temperature in the room started to drop dramatically." Back downstairs, the medium told Lenigan, who was to be spending the rest of the night alone in the ghost room, not to worry, that the spirit was not evil, just scared. Sally said she wasn't sure if the ghost would come back that night or not. Lenigan was having her doubts about spending the night in the ghost room. After midnight, the medium left, and Lenigan went upstairs with a flask of coffee, her tape recorder, a magazine to read, and she also admits a little brandy for medicinal purposes. She settled into the cold, uncomfortable room and accepted the fact she was not going to close the door to the room, turn out the light, or get any sleep that night. But around 2:30 in the morning, she did start to calm down a bit. Around 3 a.m., the room started to get noticeably warmer. Lenigan said, "I thought it's the coffee and the brandy," and then it got even warmer, and I thought, no, this isn't right. And the next thing, the smell came back instantly, that same smell. and it was even stronger than before. The smell was very intense toward my head. Yes, it was a smell, but the weirdest of all was that it was a smell that almost covered you like a sheet. It was all pervasive. It was almost like you could feel the smell on your clothes and in your hair and on the bed. I sat there for about a minute, paralyzed with fear, and I thought, right, I'm a journalist. I've got to record a piece here, and that's why I'm here. So I got my tape recorder, and apparently this was amusing when it was played back at the next day, but not for me at the time. So I'm saying it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's gotten warmer, and the smell just came back. I'm going through this, and the next thing I said, and I don't like it, and I'm going home. Lenigan claims she broke several Olympic sprint records that night as she darted down the steep stone steps and back to the lobby. She said the same musty vanilla smell followed her all the way down the steps, but stopped as soon as she crossed over to the new part of the hotel. The night manager gave Lenigan a drink from the bar and took a very shaken BBC reporter to a room as far from the castle side of the hotel as possible, where she reluctantly spent the rest of the night. The next morning at breakfast, the manager said the infamous door knocking went on that same evening as some of the guests in the old part of the castle complained of strange rappings. One guest even said a woman walked into her room in the middle of the night, and when the guests sat up to take a closer look, the woman was gone. After breakfast, the manager told Lenigan to go back upstairs to the ghost room and at least take a look at the room in daylight. Lenigan said the next part may or may not have been a practical joke, and I'll never know, and I don't ever want to know. After breakfast, I walked fairly gingerly up to the room, and there was no smell, and it was really cold. It had been like when I first went in the night before. And we were just leaving, and the manager said, "Oh my God, look in the mirror." So I looked over at the mirror, and there was my name written in dust on the mirror, Kim. And she said, "I didn't do it." I made her interrogate the staff, and they all swore that they didn't do it. I'll never know for sure, but it absolutely freaked me out. Ballygally Castle Hotel offers a combination of old world charm and some feisty Irish spirits. If you do happen to get a strange knock on your door in the middle of the night, do be kind to Lady Shaw. The poor girl has been through a lot.